for joining us today as we'll be exploring the evidence-based practice called family psychoeducation. We've been rolling this out in the public behavioral health system in Michigan for many years, and we have with us a panel of coach, trainer, supervisors for different regions all around the state. So would you please take a moment and tell us a little bit about where you're from, panel?
Hello, I'm Phil Cave and I'm from Genesee County. My region has been doing family psychoeducation since 2005.
Hello, my name is Jane Ehler, and I'm from West Michigan Community Mental Health System, and my region's been doing it since 2005.
I'm Amy Yashinsky. I am from Community Network Services in Oakland County, and we have been doing family psychoeducation since 2004.
And you guys have been really instrumental in helping us through the years also. So today what I really want to do is ask you guys a few questions that people might have about this evidence-based practice and how it could help families that we serve. So first of all, I know that this is an evidence-based practice for people in recovery with schizophrenia. So can you tell us a little bit about how can multifamily group help people with symptoms related to schizophrenia?
Well, an evidence-based practice is based on research, and that's what makes it different from any other clinical practice. The research shows that family psychoeducation for the first year, with its focus on symptom management and medication adherence, and using families to lower the levels of high expressed emotion, fosters recovery.
What Family Group offers is education, problem solving, and support. And it's also about absolving guilt. Many family members come into this whole process thinking it's something I did, something we must have done that must have caused this terrible illness. And we spend a lot of time talking about the nature of the illness, that it is an illness. Nobody caused it. This is a biological process. And that's all part of the family psychoeducation format and the process, working with the families and really validating what they've been through.
Also, in the initial engagement with families and with the people that we serve, we spend a lot of time trying to understand what the symptoms are, what each person's experience with the illness has been. And in doing that, families are better able to recognize symptoms and act appropriately when they are seen. And so that is very, very helpful in the recovery of somebody who is dealing with schizophrenia as well.
So it turns out that the most vulnerable part of the person's recovery is approximately 12 to 18 months after their break, and that's ironically at about the time that families begin to manifest a lot of pressure with expectations for performance, and right at the time when the person's most vulnerable, it's very, very risky, and so we use the family guidelines to inform the family about the benefits of going slow, for example, and lowering expectations.
When somebody has an illness that's long-term, when they begin to recover, everybody wants life back to normal. They want to go back to college, and maybe the family wants them back to work. And what we know about schizophrenia is that it's really like an injury to the brain, and it takes time to recover. And the family guidelines really foster a plan for making that happen.
Yeah, good point, everybody. So family psychoeducation is also an evidence-based practice for people in recovery with bipolar disorder. So are there any specific things about multifamily group that can help people in recovery with bipolar disorder?
Well, again, it's also about the education, problem-solving, support. And I think one of the things that we haven't mentioned is this whole process offers hope for people. Hope that your life can be back to normal and a family can get back to normal.
Family psychoeducation is built around the understanding that mental illness is a biologically based brain disorder. So regardless of what illness a person has, an understanding of the biology of that illness is so helpful for both the person with the illness and their loved ones. So again, regardless of the illness, whether it be schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, the structure of the family psychoeducation model, the information involved or inherent within the family psychoeducation model is very, very helpful to anybody who is on a recovery journey.
Because as we know, identifying, one of the things we really focus on, I think, in family group too, especially in the initial joinings, is identifying triggers and early warning signs. Because we know that the sooner we do that, the less impact the illness is going to have on the individual and the family. And so if you can become very good at doing that, you can lower the stress level in the home, you can make whatever adjustments you need to medications, lifestyle, and it can become a blip on the radar instead of a huge event.
We know that unfortunately one of the major tragedies of a major mental illness is that it changes the person's relationship with their family of origin, and the family, just when they need the most support, find themselves being abandoned essentially without community resources. Part of that's based on a lack of information, both on the part of the family and the community at large. And family psychoeducation intends to help families build connections not only with their family members that would be helpful, but also with other members of the community at large.
And that's why we ask people to make like approximately a 9-month commitment to the group. Because when you bring people together who have had these similar experiences, these similar events in their lives, the energy is often very powerful. They come together and they're experts in problem solving. They don't know it yet, but as they come together, they recognize that. And the support, the understanding, the problem solving that happens in the group is powerful. It's very surprising and it's overwhelming at times.
So with family psychoeducation, and we're talking about multifamily group, we're using this word family a lot. But my understanding is with this evidence-based practice, someone really could invite other people that we call natural supports. So can you talk a little bit about who do people sometimes pick for natural supports and what might that look like in the multifamily group?
Families, whoever is important in your life. It doesn't have to be a brother, a sister, mother. It can be your neighbor. It can be your sponsor from AA. It can be your friend from the foster home. It could be your foster home operator. It's whoever is important to you, whoever supports you in your recovery.
I think that's the only key, is that that person also has an investment in the recovery of the person, that they have an understanding of what the person deals with on a daily basis, and that they want to be a part of helping to make life better.
Another thing I love about the model is that it uses the family as the primary change agent. I can illustrate that with an example. When we did my first group a few years ago, the individual who was the identified patient, I guess I would say that the service recipient, came with his family for the educational workshop. That's about a 6-hour-long presentation, and it's quite demanding. It's difficult to follow. Well, the nature of the illness is that he got easily overwhelmed, and he left after about 20 minutes, but his family stayed. I didn't see him for a year, and when I saw him, he accompanied his family back to another family psychoeducation group. I didn't recognize him. He looked so good. He was with his family members, and I could have easily seen who that was, but his demeanor, everything about him had improved so significantly. It was just amazing.
When you talk about the family being the change agent, that's one of the hallmarks of family group, is changing the conversation. We change how the families interact with each other through the education we provide about stress-based illnesses and how stress affects an entire family. When you change the conversation, you change the way people interact, and life becomes better.
Yeah.
And when life becomes better, people relax. They just lower their expectations, as in the family guidelines.
And they can get back to their own lives. They can carry on business as usual, because families, mothers and dads and brothers and sisters, need to be involved in their own lives for their own peace of mind and their own well-being. Plus, it takes the focus off the person with the illness, because we know if they're too much of the focus, that high level of expressed emotion, that's very stressful. That's a lot of expectation on one individual.
And inherent in that life getting better is a decrease in the shame and the blame and the stigma that family members feel, and that the person being served feels as well. And so it's such a major part. It's sort of a really happy side effect of the model, the way the model is designed, and the family guidelines as well, that people, when going through family psychoeducation, get the education that is necessary to understand that mental illness is not a person's fault. It's not as a result of bad parenting. It's not, it didn't happen, it's not caused by substance use or anything like that, that this is a biologically based brain disorder. And when people understand that, it takes away so much of that guilt that weighs people down and really keeps people from being able to live the life they want to live.
It's the hope and validation, because very often when you go through this process, family members do fall away because they don't understand. So, Aunt Bill and Uncle Frida, Aunt Sylvia and Uncle Bill, quit coming to Thanksgiving dinner because little Johnny, he's hiding out in the basement. And they don't understand that. And families, we offer that validation and that hope and that support. Things do get back to normal.
And it turns out hope is a primary ingredient for recovery. Another thing I love about family psychoeducation is that it's highly structured based on the research that we've seen. And within those structures is a tremendous amount of flexibility so that we can tailor the content of each group to match the needs of the participants that are there for that evening. And it's just really excellent in that way.
To talk about hope, hope is one of those things that we as human beings get to feel that really no other living organism has. And hope we think of as this really big, big emotion running through a field of flowers, but hope is really just the thought that tomorrow might be better than today. It doesn't have to be that, tomorrow is all better, if there is an all better. It doesn't have to be that, tomorrow I'm going to make some grand step in my recovery. It's just that tomorrow might be better than today. And family psychoeducation facilitators have this really awesome opportunity and ability to instill that in group members every other week to help people to understand that in the short term tomorrow might be better than today, and that's oftentimes enough to help people get to tomorrow.
So take that idea of hope and give it to one family member who comes and experiences family psychoeducation processes in a room with 6 or 7 other families. And they begin to generate an excitement about possibilities that they would not have been able to produce on their own. And it is an amazing, powerful thing.
Well, it is because, this is what worked for me, and so that maybe I will try that. The power in the room when you harness that energy is just so amazing because they come together as a unit and they support each other. They come up with solutions we wouldn't even think of. It's an amazing process. It's powerful and it's enjoyable for us.
Yeah, and I always tell families, family psychoeducation is not therapy. It's not therapy. It's really, when I'm a facilitator, I truly am facilitating this model, this experience for these families to all come together. And that's when the hope and the power and the resource sharing and all that stuff just happens on its own. We are facilitating that process. And so some people don't always, I've had therapy for years, or I don't know how I feel about therapy, and I tell them this is not therapy. You may get therapy at some other time, that may be helpful for you, but that's not what this is about.
The illness is the focus of the group and recovery from the illness. That's the focus, and in that way it is not therapy. The family, the family is part of the recovery, but the family is not the focus. The illness is the focus, and how teaching the family and the individual with the illness how to manage it.
In family psychoeducation, the processes after the educational workshop, the processes focus on further engagement and then going into multifamily problem-solving groups. The hallmark of those is a 6-step problem-solving model that was generated from the private sector a few years ago. And as we say, we facilitate the process so that at the end of every session, we don't just have a set of vague ideas, we have specific action steps that family members can take to further the recovery of their loved one. They go for about 2 weeks, engage in those action steps, and then come back and report on their experience. And in every case, the family psychoeducation participants are highly supportive and highly excited about the progress that's made.
Yeah, they always want to check back in and say, how did it go? How did your action
Exactly.
plan play out for you?
It's important that we explain to family members that it's not therapy, but it's also really important that we explain to potential facilitators that it's not therapy. So many of us have been in the public behavioral health system or other sort of helping, counseling, social work type fields for so long, and we're really used to therapy. We are really used to facilitating a group in which there's a therapeutic group process. We are really used to sort of digging down deep, going back 25 years. Family psychoeducation is not about that, and it requires a shift for the facilitator to really get used to doing work in a different way. But once you get used to it, it's really great, and it's a really really wonderful model that actually ends up doing a lot of your work for you, which is also a nice benefit as a facilitator.
And that's the thing about the format. It's a very predictable, it's calm and predictable. And that's what a person recovering from mental illness needs, that calm, predictable model. The same thing happens every single week. We start at this time, we finish at this time, and every single week, everybody knows exactly what is going to happen.
In fact, after a group 18 months or 24 months, they often can take over and run the group themselves, and as facilitators, we basically observe the process and support them, but they take ownership and have authority over those processes in a way that no other therapeutic process that I know of gives them an opportunity to.
Another thing that I find is unique to the multifamily group is that we as facilitators can partner with a certified peer support specialist because we run the groups in teams of 2. And so it's a great experience for me as a facilitator to have that certified peer support coming with me for the joining sessions and lending their experience to the workshop and being a part of the problem solving group with us.
It's awesome as a facilitator, and it's even more amazing for the family members. There's already the built-in socialization, the built-in, I'm not alone in this, I can hear things that have worked for other people, and then peer support specialists offer a level of support that is just amazing, for really lack of a better word, that it's hard to even describe. And so to have a peer support specialist in the group who can show what they've done, they are on their recovery journey in such a place that they are employed and they are helping to use their experiences to help others in their recovery journey. And it is such a gift to give to family members and to consumers in the group, almost as an example. Everybody's different, everybody has different experiences, but really to just provide an image of sort of what recovery can be. And again, it goes back to hope. It all ties back to hope.
Well, I think that's another unique feature of family group too. Historically, families were shunned. A person got ill, they went to the hospital, and the family was just kind of out there. And we realize now that the family is the greatest asset. And we partner with them. We're not the mental health professional and you're the family. We all come together in a partnership.
We level that playing
You
field.
absolutely level the playing field. We all come together in a collaborative partnership, whether it's the mental health clinician, the peer support, it is the consumer, the family member. We've leveled that playing field. We're all together working for one common goal.
So that's another thing that makes family psychoeducation so unique. It actually expects and defines an arena that the facilitators have responsibility and a duty and the pleasure of being fairly transparent and authentic in the relationship. And so once again, it distinguishes itself as being different from other therapies, quote unquote, in that way.
Other evidence-based practices that we have the opportunity to utilize. Absolutely. Thinking about your experience using the multifamily group model, can you give me an example of a time that you really saw the problem-solving process or the model itself make a difference for a family?
We ran a group with a young adult population, and one of the young gentlemen in the group was really very much a loner. He did not have any kind of social connections. His mom would come over a lot to check on him, but that was really the only sort of outside contact he had. He agreed to come to group and participated in group, but when I say participate, he was there. He didn't necessarily contribute much. He experienced symptoms. It was sort of less episodic and more on a daily, more chronic type basis. And he really struggled with it, and his mom had a very difficult time understanding sort of when to step back and when to be involved and how involved is too involved. And this group, it was, like I said, a group of young adult consumers. And so everybody was in the same age range and having similar experiences. And another consumer in group took a liking to this guy. They were they were the same age, and this other consumer in group started inviting him to things. What are you doing tomorrow? It's dollar movies on Thursdays. Let's go see a dollar movie. And at first the consumer didn't want, he said no or wasn't sure. But eventually he started going and they would alternate. It was dollar movies and then like $3 bowling. And they would go every week. They would do one or the other. And this gentleman who was so isolated and so solitary in his dealing with his illness and just in his daily life developed an actual social network. Eventually they invited some of the other people in group to come with them. And it really was, it was just like the stories that you hear of how it's supposed to be. It was really, really awesome.
So they became like a group of friends.
Yes, exactly.
Excellent.
The very first group that we ever did, well, it was a young man, with schizophrenia and his parents. Of course, we invited them all to attend. The young man refused. He wanted nothing to do with our group. But the parents came, and they came religiously for 4 years. And the young man, pretty much he wouldn't leave the house. They wouldn't let him drive. He'd been, DUIs and all kinds of, he was seriously ill, had been hospitalized many times. He never set foot in our group. But the parents came religiously for 4 years, and we changed the conversation. And once we changed the conversation and they understood that he wasn't doing this on purpose, that he wasn't doing it just to cause trouble, that he was ill. And that this set of circumstances were going to be with them. They changed the conversation, they changed the way they did things, and the young man never set foot in our group, but he got his driver's license back. He started attending pool group with the ACT team. He attended ACT group, and he made friends. The ACT groups loved him. They really, truly enjoyed him. But the gentleman, he never set foot in our group, but the parents attended faithfully for 4 years, and everything changed.
Wow, that is incredible. It's one of the things that I have found so often when I'm facilitating group is families are really able to better distinguish what is a symptom of an illness and what is the personality characteristics of this person that I care about. Because those things can become so jumbled and combined that it can be hard to differentiate between those things.
Well, I think in the process too, as we do this, we talk a lot about triggers and early warning signs. And so people become so much more in tune to what their family members' triggers for symptom increase are and early warning signs for symptom increase are. And so once you get on top of that, it's so much easier to manage. It's a blip in the radar, not a huge event.
Yeah. Especially parents are so invested in sort of the outcome of their child. There's so much ego invested and you really can't get away from family systems issues when working with families. And so for so many, especially for parents, when their child has what most people would think are personality traits that are, not really praised by society, lack of motivation, maybe difficulty with grooming and personal hygiene, those kinds of things, parents get so wrapped up in what it means about them as a parent that their child is this way. And so in providing the education that helps people to understand what is a symptom, what is personality, and that the symptoms are biologically based, that they are about the brain not working the way that it is supposed to. It provides so much relief and really enlightenment for family members, especially for parents, that they are able to then sort of take that step back and allow the symptom to be the symptom, because it doesn't mean anything about them as a parent, because a symptom is about the brain and not about parenting.
There's an aspect of family psychoeducation I'd like to add, and that is that I guess I'd like to believe that as practitioners we enter the field because we want to make a difference for people. We want to help improve the quality of their lives. And family psychoeducation gives us a way to do that and enables us to interact with families and other community members, natural supports, in a way that lets us be ourselves. And because it's so successful, we enjoy doing our work. We experience a greater sense of fulfillment. It gives us some sense of competency that we don't ordinarily feel. And so it's a happy marriage between being good for families but also being good for the profession.
Well, I think we enjoy that collegial collaboration too. It's a different relationship.
It is.
And you do. I think we enjoy it too as practitioners.
That's why we do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really think we've hit a lot of the really important points about family psychoeducation. And if people have questions, they can contact their own local public behavioral health surface site and get some additional information. So thank you very much.